Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be talking about music theory and more specifically the Nashville number system. I'm going to try to keep it kind of brief and just tell you what you need to know to get started and start exploring more of it on your own. A friend of mine asked me if I knew any good videos for Nashville numbers specifically, and I was like, no, I don't, but I do know a guy who has a YouTube channel and he can do it. So that's what I'm doing today. This is by no means a full guide on music theory or even the Nashville number system, but it'll hopefully get you started and get your feet wet and help you start to understand what's going on when people are like, play the minor six, whatever. Like, I'm going to demystify that for you, hopefully. So the idea of the Nashville number system starts in the key of the song. So for this whole video, we're going to be in the key of G, just to keep it simple, and everything we do is going to be pertaining to the key of G. And saying something's in the key of G is just basically saying G is kind of your home base, your one, the tonic, whatever you want to call it. That's where you start. That's where it all originates from. And everything's going to pivot around and relate to that main key. So you're in the key of G, and you need to relate that to your major scale. And so I'm going to play the G major scale and show you what it is. It sounds like this. You may have heard it. Right? And so that starts on G, and then you go whole step or 2 frets to A, another whole step to B, a half step or 1 fret to C, whole step to D, whole step to E, whole step to F sharp, and half step back to G. Back home, back to the root. Also known as the root, the key, the root, those are the same things. What do you do with that? Nashville numbers assigns each note of the major scale a number, and then there's an associated chord that goes along with that number. And that chord's going to have its own tonality and major minor assumptions, but for now, we're just going to start, this is 1, that's a G chord, right? The next note up, that's 2, so A is 2, B is 3, C is 4, D is 5, E is 6, F sharp is 7, and then G, you're back to 1. It doesn't go to 8, it just restarts back at 1. So now we're going to put a full chord with each of those numbers. So you start with the first one, that's G major. The next one is 2, and it's usually minor, so that'd be A minor. Next is B minor. Then to C, which is 4. Next is 5, which is D. Next is a 6 minor, which is E minor. The 7th chord is like a weird transitional chord. It's an F sharp diminished back to G. And that part's even a little fuzzy for me because I don't ever use that. It's always 1, 4, 5, 6. Sometimes you get a 2 or a 3. Very, very rarely is someone like, go to the 7 chord. That doesn't happen. So for the sake of very surface level, shallow music theory, we're not going to talk about that anymore. So some context, say the song starts on the 1. So you're going to start on G. And the next chord in the song is a 5. So all you need to do is count your major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and play that chord. Say the next chord's a 6, count to 6. 6 is usually, almost always, a minor chord, along with 2 and 3. So you just need to make a mental note of that. 2, 3, and 6 are usually minor. And if they're not minor, someone's going to say otherwise. They're going to say like major 2 or major 6. Otherwise, 6 or minor 6. Okay, so we're playing along. We're on the 5, D. Next chord is a 6, which means a minor 6. That's going to be E minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. E minor. Back to 1, which is G, to 4, that's C, to 5, to minor 2, to minor 6, to, what haven't we done? Minor 3. Back to 1. Sometimes if they say something like major 2, then like, I'm going to make it major. major instead of minor. I'm not going to cover how to make a chord major or minor in this video. If that's something that's interesting to you guys or you want to learn more about, let me know and I'm happy to make another video. But for the sake of this video and not being like an hour long, we're just going to leave it at that. That's great. You kind of hopefully have a little bit of a handle in G. And then from there, the task is on you to start to learn different keys, because you need to train your brain to be like, oh, key of C, like the 4 chord is F. And so, you know, here's C, right? And we're gonna go to 4. That's an F. So you just need to start looking at your scales and go through and kind of figure out what the 6th note of a certain scale is or what the 4th note of a certain scale is. It's a little bit of learning work to do, but once you're able to, I want to say, like, speak in that language, because it's different than saying G chord. It's like saying the 4 chord or whatever. It's a slightly different language, like a dialect almost. And once you learn how to communicate in that way, it's just going to level you up as a musician even more. It also makes it really easy to change keys of a song. You know, if you're in A, and say it's 1, 4, 5 in A, so you're going to go 1, okay, then to 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. That's D, and 5. 3, 4, 5. 1, 4, 5, but then the singer's like, oh, that's too low, can you bump it up a whole step? Instead of panicking, you just move your root to the new key, which is now B, and then you can figure out, okay, 1 is B, and then you're gonna go to 4, so count to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's E, and then to 5 is F sharp. Once you can do that very quickly, you're like semi-pro already, just from your ability to communicate chords and musical ideas. And this is not limited to guitar. This will work on any instrument. So if you're bass, even better, because you don't have to worry as much about the major minor unless you're doing like some fancy stuff. You know, it would just be whatever root note of that chord is where you're chilling on bass. For piano or keys, any of that stuff, same thing. It's the same language, just different application on your fingers. I know that's a very, very simplified version of it, but it's a good way to get your feet wet and start thinking about the Nashville number system and how to communicate chords as numbers. If you want me to elaborate further or have any questions, please let me know in the comments. This style of video is new to me. I'm used to just like pointing at an EQ or a guitar and being like, that's an EQ or a guitar. So let me know how I did on this different form of teaching. As always, thank you so much for watching the video. Please make sure you like and subscribe.